Do you like country music? Head down to Morris, Manitoba, July 25th, 26th, and 27th for the Howl at the Moon Festival. This year's festival features a number of high-profile acts, including Lone Star, Emerson Drive, and Dean Brody, as well as a host of local Manitoba artists such as Greg Arcade, Franny Klein, Aaron Starr, Chris Michael, and many, many more. The festival started as an event to bring a huge opportunity to local Manitoba artists by having everyone sharing a huge bill, and it's only grown since its inception. There will be shuttle buses from various locations if you can't drive, there's camping, day passes are available, weekend-long festival passes are available, and a lot more. You can find tickets and more information at howlatthemoonfest.com, and be sure to follow the festival on Facebook or Instagram. This episode of Witch Police Radio is my conversation with my old friend Henry Beckwith. Henry is an ex-Winnipegger currently living in Toronto, and he makes his career as a front-of-house audio guy and a tour manager for a very impressive list of Canadian bands. Part of the reason I wanted to talk to Henry was to find out a bit about that end of the business. I feel like on this show, we're often talking to musicians about the creative process, about songwriting, about performing, but this is kind of a key component to music in general that really is maybe overlooked. The role of a tour manager might be a thankless one, but Henry has some interesting insight into just what goes into planning a tour, what goes into doing sound, and all of that. So it's a fun conversation with a guy who, hasn't lived in Winnipeg for a long time, but literally wears the city on his sleeve. He has a tattoo of Confusion Corner sign. So he's very, fond of Winnipeg, but he's been living in Toronto and previously Vancouver because that's where the work was. And he's been very successful. It's cool to see a guy who I played in a terrible reggae band with 15 years ago, over the years, kind of continuing to succeed within the music industry. So it's not necessarily a Winnipeg-focused episode, but it's dealing with someone who got his start here in the music industry, and I think it's a really interesting listen, whether you're a musician or not. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at the Park Theatre, Winnipeg's premier concert and event venue. If you want to find out all the great shows they have coming up, go to myparktheatre.com.
You're listening to Garbage Hill, Winnipeg's first podcast network.
Welcome to Witch Police Radio. I'm on the phone again, which is kind of one of the benefits of having this new recorder, and I'm talking to a former Winnipegger who is, I think, more than a lot of people I knew back in the day, I guess, is heavily involved in the music scene out in Toronto and beyond. So, I guess just for a little context, I think we first met, must have been about over a decade ago now, but at the first ever Winnipeg Ska and Reggae Festival, right?
The first one.
I didn't
know it was the first one.
I think it was the first one. I was on the organizing committee for that festival, and you were a volunteer.
Right.
If that is that right? That sounds right.
Yeah. That was probably the first music festival I actually volunteered for.
Yeah. And what were you doing? Were you just like loading trucks and shit, or what?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't even really remember that. That must have been about 2006.
Something like that, yeah. And then so what happened
Yeah.
from there is a bunch of us just met each other and started hanging out, and then we decided to start a terrible reggae band.
It was terrible.
It was bad, yeah, it was really bad. And then the cool thing with that is like almost everyone in that band went on to do different music-related things. I mean, like, Greg Arcade, who is now a country singer, obviously, he was playing drums in that band. Country Steve, also a country singer, was singing about shopping malls in that band. I was playing bass. Colin Wolfe was playing guitar, and he's still, messing around with music. And you were playing keyboard. And,
Yeah.
obviously things have come a long way since then, in the sense that you work in the music business as a career now.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess maybe if you can just sort of explain quickly what it is that you do, because I know you have kind of a few hats within the music business.
Yeah. Well, primarily I started as a sound person just working in clubs.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went on tour, and then eventually turned into a tour manager / front of house person.
And how did you get into that? Because I remember when I kind of, I've sort of watched this happen over the years via social media, and it kind of seems to me that you just sort of became this guy slowly over a number of years, right? Because I know you were playing in a lot of bands, you were playing keyboard, and you were touring with a few bands, I guess, over the years, but
yeah,
you just suddenly seemed to transition to the sound guy, and then that transitioned into what you're doing now. Like, how did you even get there?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things work out.
Yeah.
I was playing bands in Vancouver, and then I got a job at the Biltmore Cabaret. My friend Swan, who I credit with getting me started in the industry.
Yeah.
And I would just pick up sound shifts here and there. And I would do that in between tours because if you're touring, it's kind of hard to keep a steady job. So
yeah, of course, yeah. So did you have background in that stuff? Because I remember you were working, like, when you were in Winnipeg, you were working at TV stations and stuff. Like, you weren't, as far as I remember, a sound guy before this, right?
No, I wasn't. No. Yeah, I went to school for broadcasting.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just kind of fell into the sound thing. A guy I was playing with asked me if I wanted to mix a band one night. They were at this crazy art gallery kind of space in Vancouver, and I was broke. I think it paid $50.
Nice.
I said yes, and it was a horrible experience.
Okay.
I didn't understand the concept of live sound or monitors. I didn't know how the mixer was routed.
Yeah. And
it was just the band must have hated me. It was nonstop feedback and just the whole room staring at me. And I don't know why I continued with it. I think it was because I knew I could figure it out, but that particular day was incredibly stressful. And,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah. How did you get hired back?
I just kept going. Well, I didn't. I definitely didn't get hired back there.
Right? Yeah.
I think I started at the Biltmore, and I was just doing easy stuff like DJ nights, where you just, turn the DJ up and basically babysit.
Yeah.
And then my friend Susie had this rock and roll night. Oh my God, I can't even remember it. It's a decade ago.
Yeah.
She was asking me if I would come and do that, so I would do that once a month. It's called the Beehive.
Okay.
It was kind of like a 60s rock night, and I would do sound there once a month. And then it just kind of, the ball kept rolling, and I got jobs here and there.
And I guess at one point you sort of glommed onto you certain bands, and you would go out on tour with them and do sound with them on the road, right?
The reason I started touring was because the Zolas hired me to play keyboards for them.
Okay.
And I did a Canadian tour with them because their keyboard player was opening a recording studio, so they needed a keyboard player. I went out with them. Recording studio opened, and then Tom came back and joined the band after that.
Okay.
But then Zach invited me out to mix them, and that was the first tour I ever went on where I was in the role of a sound person.
Okay.
And I was kind of hooked from that moment.
One of the things that's kind of come up on this show a lot, actually, whether I'm talking to, a musician or a podcaster or a journalist or whatever, is the idea of people, when they start out doing something like that, feeling like they have the imposter syndrome. Like, why does anyone trust me to do this? Like, I'm assuming that came along with that as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I think everybody has the imposter syndrome. I don't know, especially in live music.
Yeah. Well, because everyone's watching you, right? They're not watching you, but you're responsible for the sound that they're all paying to hear.
Yeah, I guess so. And, the vast majority of people that I know that are doing this are self-taught. So
Sure.
there's a certain amount of fake it till you make it in certain situations where you really have to put yourself into an uncomfortable situation that you've, never experienced before. And you just have to go with it and hope it succeeds.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. And then there's a real component of the imposter syndrome, because there are rules in audio, but there are 3,000 different ways to do every different task. So
Sure.
it's kind of, like a personal taste thing, but also knowledge based that you, if you're self-taught, learn, through your own research and experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely someone who doesn't have any aptitude for that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, when it comes to recording anything, I usually want to just record it on whatever equipment I have at whatever quality and then done, release. Like, if anyone heard the third Mouthboat tape, which I made, they should not have let me mix any of it. But, I mean, the mixing is horrible. Right. It's brutal. And so, just based on that, I can't imagine doing that for a as a career. There's got to be something in your brain that kind of that makes you suited for that kind of thing, right? What are you listening for at a live show? How do you know what to do other than just, is it really just what you're hearing, or there's got to be more to it, right?
Well, okay, first point is, the nice thing about live music is that it's temporary, and when the show's over, you're never going to do that show again.
Right.
Versus, a live recording, in a live mix, you're essentially preserving something for all of time. So there's a little more pressure there, I think.
Sure. Or there should be.
I don't know. Yeah. In the live mix, I guess what I listen for is just a good balance between everything.
Yeah.
And then just proper EQing and just making things easy on the ears. It shouldn't be too harsh. It should be loud and present, but it shouldn't hurt people's ears. So that's kind of what I focus on, is just making everything smooth sounding to me.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine if you're going on tour with a band too, you're mixing them every night, so you have probably a decent idea of what their set list is like and what the dynamics are in the songs. And
it's kind of cool, actually, transitioning from a person who played in bands to somebody who works for bands.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed becoming a tech on for the reason that when you're with a band every night, you learn everybody's part as a tech, rather than just your own, keyboard line or whatever.
Yeah.
You intimately know everything about the song. So, and that plays into your mix as well. If there's, I don't know, a guitar solo or something, you know where it is every night, so you're going to boost it a bit. Or, a particular effect needs to happen, so you trigger that at a particular time. Is
there, do you feel like it's strictly a technical position, or is there an artistic element to it as well? Are you contributing to the sound? I mean, you are contributing to the sound, literally, but do you feel like you're contributing artistically to what happens by the way you mix it, or is it really just kind of, this is the job, this is how they want it, this is it?
No, I think there's a creative component to it. I don't think I'd be doing it if I didn't think there was that aspect to it. I mean, it is very, very technical, but I think a lot of it comes down to your ear at the end of the day. So, I mix the band the way I want to hear it.
Yeah. When you're touring with a band, I mean, you're mixing them every night. So again, you have an idea of what you're listening for and how you get very familiar with the songs. From venue to venue, are you using potentially completely different gear? Are you depending, I guess, on the type of venue it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on a lot of things. It depends on the level of band you're with.
Sure.
Once you get to an arena level where you're able to tour with your own PA.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you're good, right? Yeah.
Which is a luxury that I haven't had yet. But oftentimes there'll be budget to bring a console with me.
Okay.
Which is great because I have my own microphone kit, so I'll use my own mics on the band. I'll have the same console every night, so I can work on my show file. And then really the only thing that changes are the room and the PA. So
yeah,
once you've got your band mix more or less good, then every time you roll into a new venue, you just listen to the PA, and hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
Most times it's a challenge. And the room too, like, is it a hall? Is it like a small box with no reflections that you have to deal with? So you just kind of listen to the PA and work with what you're given. But the job is made 10 times easier if you've got your own console.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah. Are decisions like around how to mix it, are they often kind of last minute? I mean, do you frequently have a lot of time to sit around in the venue and figure things out, or are you just sort of thrust into it and you got to figure it out on the fly?
Well, again, I guess that depends on what position you're in on the tour. If you're a headline tour, then
you have time. Yeah.
Yeah, then well, I've typically been tour managing, so I will advance with the venue to give a nice leisurely sound check, usually an hour and a half, just to get things nice and in place.
And then how did you get from being the sound guy or tours with the band to managing the tours? Because it seems like both of those jobs are probably not all that enviable. Like, I think a lot of people, that's the shit that people don't want to deal with, right? They want someone else to to figure it out for them and plan it out for them and get the sound right.
What, tour managing?
Yeah.
Or
both
jobs?
Both. I mean, like, a lot of people, I think, I could be wrong, but my impression is that a lot of musicians just want to go up there and play, and because of the way things are now, a lot of independent smaller bands, they're having to do their own tour booking and all that stuff, and they hate it. From people I've had on the show, frequently, like, that's the part of being a musician that they dislike the most. Right. So you're kind of taking on that role of the grunt work almost of getting the tour from an idea of let's go on tour to actually a thing that happens. So how did you get into that, and why? Why did you decide to do that? Because I think it's maybe a job that doesn't get enough. I don't know if respect is the word, but maybe credit, for making things happen.
All right. It's the tour manager is a thankless role.
Right, yeah.
But so important. There's an easy answer, and it's I got paid more.
That's a good reason, yeah.
It increased my wage dramatically because essentially you're doing two jobs. So the way it works, typically in Canada, kind of the mid-level Canadian bands, the ones that I'm working for, playing, like 1,000 to 2,000 seaters in major markets, will not be able to afford two people because, first of all, that's two wages, so there's a bit of a discount if one person does it. And then there's the other aspect of you got to pay a per diem to the second person, and then hotel rooms. So, if you've got to get an extra hotel room, then that could dramatically increase the cost of your tour.
Yeah.
So typically, up into the next level, you're just, there's a lot of front of house TMs.
Okay.
Kind of in the mid levels.
How did you get, like, from, because it makes sense that you were touring with bands when you were playing with them and stuff, and you kind of started doing sound there, but are you kind of at this point just a guy for hire? Because I mean, I was looking at you have that website where you kind of list all the bands you've worked with, and it's a pretty long list. And it seems like every once in a while I see your post and you're going out with another band that you weren't out with last time. So like, what's the are you just like on call basically if someone needs a tour manager and a sound guy?
Yeah, well, I work for myself, and I primarily get all of my work from word of mouth or just through other techs and tour managers that I know.
Yeah.
Because once you get to know other people, you know who you would recommend would do a good job, because most people don't want to recommend somebody that would not be good at it. So
I guess that's with every industry too, right? If you're doing any kind of freelance work, like people will say, yeah, this guy does good work. You give him a call, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been doing it for quite a while now. I've got a lot of experience, and I just get offered a fair amount of work.
Do you take whatever work you're offered, or are you very selective about the bands that you work with?
No, I'm a little more selective now. Yeah.
Does it have to be someone you like? Someone whose music you like? Or is that kind of not the priority?
No, that's less the priority. That's an interesting thing, too, is, musical taste. Because, oftentimes I'll go out with people who I wouldn't listen to at home, but I managed to find something I like about everybody I work for, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say the primary thing that I look for is, will I be able to live with these people on the road?
Right. Yeah.
If I have to be on the road for 2 months with a group that I think I'm not going to get along with, I don't know. I'm just not interested.
Yeah, no.
Which it might be the wrong approach. I feel like some people do it the other way, but life's too short for assholes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like that's another reason I'd be horrible at that job, is because, like, I remember, this is, again, going back like 10 years or so, I did a couple attempts at DJing at reggae nights. I mean, again, with the reggae thing. And I just played records that I wanted to hear. And that doesn't work. Like, just being like, this is what, so I feel like if I was doing what you're doing, I would be super selective, and then I wouldn't get any work because I'd just be choosing bands that I specifically liked. And so, I mean, yeah, that makes sense that you're being able to live with them is a higher priority than whether you're a personal fan of the music, right?
Yeah, that's true. And, the other thing to recognize is that if somebody can afford to take me out, then it's generally a good band.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Whether you like the genre or not, they've seen some success, and people are going to shows and buying tickets. So there is a level of musicianship there, and that's what I look for. I guess I would have trouble with something if the people playing the music weren't very good at playing what they were playing.
Well, yeah, like you're not going to get the guy next door who's got like a basement punk band who's played 2 shows to call you up and take you on tour, because they're not going to go on tour and they have no money to hire someone in the first place, right?
No, definitely not.
So, I mean, you have Manitoba roots. You're from here. You went to school in Brandon, and you went to Vancouver and then Toronto. Is this job something that you would not be able to do if you'd stayed in Winnipeg?
I don't know. I don't think so necessarily. I think, the fact that I've moved around so much, I've just met so many different people, which has helped my career.
Yeah.
If I didn't leave, I probably would have a smaller pool of people. Well, I don't know. I guess it would depend on what you're doing, because, plenty of people in Winnipeg that go out and tour, and
there are, yeah, definitely.
So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Well, I guess Toronto and Vancouver both just open you up to, Toronto especially, right? Like a wider pool of musicians, just because the population is so much bigger.
Definitely. And, out here, so much industry.
Right, yeah, for sure, yeah.
But, that said, I moved to Toronto in 2013, and, I don't know, all of my work came from the West Coast suddenly. Like, I moved away from Vancouver, and then I started working for Vancouver bands. And I don't actually work for anybody in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Like, my major clients are Vancouver, Montreal, and Halifax based.
That's really weird. I mean, I guess it makes sense because you're touring with them, so you're going with them to every city, right? But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about my job now that I'm established in it, I can kind of live anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is sweet. I just basically, an airport that's somewhat affordable.
Yeah. Because you got to bounce around, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of yeah, kind of go anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you like that lifestyle? Like, is that something that works for you?
What?
The lifestyle of being kind of always city to city, airport to airport. Like, are you happy with that kind of tour life, like the on the road all the time sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think I would be doing it if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
If I'm off the road for too long, I start to get itchy for the road.
Yeah.
You know, like I worked quite a bit in venues in Toronto, but you know, I'd be there for 4 months and just, you know, be itching to leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, touring brings a kind of calm to me that I like. It's I don't like routine, but there's nothing more routine based than tour.
Yeah.
Except everything changes.
Right.
But you do the same thing every day.
Just in a different city every day. Yeah.
You drive to the next city. You do a show, and then you do it again the next day, but at the same time, everything's new.
Yeah.
And exciting. So it's a bit of an addiction. I think.
Yeah. I think you probably have to have a certain personality to be into doing that too.
Oh, 100%.
Especially like you know, the older you get, right? I mean, people buying houses, having families, all that shit, and I mean, this comes up a lot on the show too because you know, I'm talking to bands. One of them buys a house, all of a sudden their ability to tour is kind of like cut in half, and things like that, right? So you kind of have to be with the lifestyle of the road to be able to keep it going.
Totally. I mean, I'm at the point where if I bought a house, I would have to keep touring because I don't know how else to make decent money.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you're in Toronto, so I guess you could probably never buy a house because the prices are so insane.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah. For sure.
It's crazy.
Are you still playing? Are you still playing keyboard at all, or any other music?
Not a ton. Yeah, really not a ton. The most recent thing I did was from my friend Andrew Woods, who has this band called Napster Vertigo. And
good name.
Yeah. He plays guitar with Basha Bulat, who I work for.
Yeah.
And I went out to Montreal to record on his record. We're old friends. He did a European tour that I was on in my old band Chains of Love.
Yeah.
And so we bonded on that tour. Anyway, I played on his record, which is coming out on Dynalone Records at some point this year.
Is that the same label the Chains of Love stuff came out on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
years ago.
Yeah, that's been a while, right?
Years ago. Yeah.
And like one other thing that's kind of people talk about a lot when I'm mostly interviewing Manitoba artists, right? Like whether it's a rapper, a country singer, metal band, whatever. And one of the things that has kind of been brought up a few times, and I think you're a good example of this maybe, is a lot of people who are involved in music in Manitoba, Winnipeg specifically, move away, and then while they're there, they become like the most hardcore Winnipeggers that there are. Like, I mean, you have
right.
You have a Confusion Corner tattoo, right? I mean, that's like
all right.
It almost seems like you're representing Winnipeg more now that you're away from it than when you were here. Is that like, do you feel that? Do you think that your Winnipegness is like more of a badge of honor, if you want to call it that, like in Toronto or whatever city you're touring in, than it is when you were living here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was pretty young when I left Winnipeg, like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, it is pretty young, yeah.
And, you know, like a lot of people when they're young just don't like where they're living, and I thought I didn't like Winnipeg. And then I left Winnipeg and I realized how cool a city it is and what it's got to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always nice meeting Winnipeggers, you know, outside of Winnipeg, and everybody's proud to be from there.
For sure, yeah. Maybe not while they're here, though, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I think we hate on ourselves all the time, and then it's like you don't realize it until you leave. It's one of those things. Maybe.
Well, you know, the grass is always greener.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't know. I think Winnipeg's cool. I mean, I haven't lived there in so long.
Yeah. You've been back quite a bit on tour, though.
Oh yeah, I'm through all the time.
Yeah.
I would come back to the city for sure at some point.
Yeah. Do you, as an outsider now, who started going to shows when you were in Winnipeg back in the day, do you, and you've obviously heard a lot of Winnipeg bands over the years, like whether it's, when you were here or over there, I'm sure you're seeing Winnipeg bands come through every once in a while too. Do you think that Winnipeg has a sound to it? Whether it's not necessarily like all these bands sound the same, but it's kind of like a running theme on this podcast, if there is a theme, is that like, what is Winnipeg's sound? Because I feel like a lot of people who are from here and then leave, or just people from here anyway, feel there's some kind of Winnipegness to a lot of different bands across various genres. And I've been kind of trying to figure out what that is, because I think that's there too. I think I can listen to Propaganda, and I can listen to like a country artist, or listen to, some Peanuts and Corn hip hop stuff, or whatever. And there's something Winnipeg about it. And I don't know if that's just me knowing that they're from Winnipeg, or if there's actually a sound. And kind of what people have told me they think it is that Winnipeg, people like kind of grittiness and almost like wrong sounding stuff, but it sounds right. Like it's never pure and clean and exactly on the notes or whatever. There's always something slightly broken about it. And I don't know if you have encountered that or what you think, but I kind of like that idea that Winnipeg somehow is super grimy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a thing though, so I'm wondering what you think about that as an outsider now. Like, do you think there's something?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know how I would define a Winnipeg sound. Feel more comfortable saying that about Vancouver, who are arguably I spent more time in the music scene out there than I did in Winnipeg.
That's true. Yeah.
But the thing I associate Winnipeg with is just great talent. There seems to be so many great musicians that come from Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's like, it's the winter, I think. I think you either grow up and learn to play hockey, or
or you play music.
Sit in your friend's basement and learn to play music.
Yeah.
And it's just there's so many musicians that I've met that come from Winnipeg are so talented.
Yeah.
Skilled.
Yeah, it's something in the water or something, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Does Winnipeg have it's not to harp on the Winnipeg thing, but because of the nature of what the show is, does Winnipeg have a reputation? Have you noticed, like, among people from other cities, like, is there a Winnipeg sound, but like, what do people think when they they hear you're from Winnipeg or whatever? Is it just like, oh, Winnipeg, or is there some kind of like, oh, Winnipeg has, is there a vibe to it or not? Like, 'cause I think a lot of people here think that we have this outsized reputation, maybe outside of the city, because we have so many artists coming from here. And I don't know if that's true or not, but there's definitely like an idea that like, oh yeah, people recognize Winnipeg artists as, this and that and the other. Is there anything, or is that all bullshit?
You mean the
Winnipeg mystique? Do we have a mystique? Is the city have a reputation as being something, whether it's good or bad?
I think so. Yeah. And I find, there's no in between with people's thoughts on Winnipeg. It's usually I'll meet somebody like, oh, I'm from Winnipeg, and they're like, oh man, I hate Winnipeg. Or they'll be like making fun of Winnipeg or something. But then you meet somebody else and like, oh man, I love Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And they'll tell a story of they were through on tour and this crazy thing happened, or whatever.
Yeah.
Winnipeg definitely has a personality.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Definitely.
I don't know.
It's just an interesting question, because people definitely, I think, Winnipeg, as you probably remember, like, we kind of love whenever anyone talks about us that isn't here. Like, if Winnipeg is mentioned on TV, it's actual news.
Well, like The Simpsons or something?
Yeah,
like
right,
that?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's like a high-level example, right? But, I mean, anytime anyone says anything about Winnipeg, you get like I don't know, someone in a book mentions Winnipeg, and it's like front-page news. We were in a book!
Right. Actually, I just saw a video game that was made by the son of the guy who made Doom.
Okay.
It was like id Software.
Yeah.
Romero, I forget what his first name is. And game's called like Taco Truck or something, and it's
Okay.
about like basically, I don't know. There's like zombies or something in Mexico City, and you have to drive this truck and escape to Winnipeg, where there are no taco trucks.
Okay.
I'm not getting this right, but
We do have taco trucks here. There are definitely taco trucks, yeah. But
I know. Yeah, no, I saw this comment on it. Like somebody, it was just on Reddit, and
Yeah.
they're like, I'm from Winnipeg. We have taco trucks here, and they need to do more research.
yeah,
But I thought it was fun. It's just a super random like escape to Winnipeg.
yeah.
There are no taco trucks.
Well, and anyone who played that game from Winnipeg would have been like, "Oh shit, we're in a video game," and it probably told like all their friends about it, and yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
totally. I love that stuff.
yeah. I do too. I like that stuff. Yeah, yeah. So, are you currently like on tour with anyone right now, or are you at home just between tours?
Well, summer's usually summer festival season.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah,
that's what I'm doing right now. Been a pretty mellow June.
yeah,
But July I'm all over the place with a bunch of people.
okay,
It's a lot of flights.
yeah,
Which is all right. I mean, because you go out for a weekend and then you come home. I almost kind of like a straight tour a little better because you're gone for a month, you do it.
yeah,
Versus this where like I fly out on a Tuesday, I'm back on a Friday, fly out on a Sunday or whatever
yeah, yeah.
kind of thing.
Are those festival gigs all with the same artists, or are you just sort of bouncing from artist to artist that you work with?
Typically I'll be hired by an artist to do all of their summer festivals,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but they don't typically do a ton. So this year I've got 4 artists I'm working for
Okay.
through July and August.
Cool. And then, like, if again, you have the website which kind of lists it's like your resume, basically, right? Of all these artists you've worked with. Yeah. I don't know if that was what it's intended to be, but it definitely reads like that because it's like here's the people that basically can vouch for you, right? Are you always sort of looking for new people to work with, or do you have enough on your plate from your kind of existing clients, if you call them clients?
Yeah, sure, they're clients. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, I'm always happy to see what comes through. I'm always looking.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm booked basically until next May. So.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there are a few spaces in there, but typically I would just take the time off.
Yeah.
In between tours. Yeah, but it's always exciting. Actually, that's part of the worst part about this job is getting an offer, but you're busy.
Yeah.
Because it is very much first come, first served.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
But
yeah, if some band you love messages you and you've already got the month booked or whatever, they're kind of out of luck, right?
Yeah, that's happened. That's happened a couple times to me, and I kind of like. Well, yeah, I like loyalty to somebody, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I won't ditch somebody for somebody else. Just because I like them more.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't reflect well on you, I guess, as a professional, right? Yeah. So
I mean, I feel like some people do that, and that's a different method to getting higher level work.
So if someone is like, say you're on tour, you run into some kid meaning like some 20-year-old or whatever who wants to do what you're doing, do you advise them against it, or like what is, I guess, the path that someone should be taking to do this as a career if someone is so inclined? I mean, because you kind of fell into it and then it just developed for you, right? Like, is there a path someone should take to do what you do?
That's a hard question. Well, yeah, it's so I don't know. It's hard to get on the road. I know people really want to get out there and do it. I feel like the way that most people do it that are self-taught is they'll work in a venue and then they'll go out with, their friend's band.
Yeah.
Probably not making very much money, if any at all. And,
for sure.
Sleeping on floors and just slugging it out. So that's definitely one method. And then there are schools. I'm not sure about Winnipeg. If there's a live sound school, I know there's a live sound school in Toronto and Vancouver.
Okay.
And I believe those are a good foundation, but you still need to, get experience.
Yeah, for sure.
But through those courses, you really meet a lot of contacts. So oftentimes people from those courses will end up working for a production company.
Okay.
And then, because there are production companies that will outfit larger tours, like big arena stuff.
Okay. And there's a whole team there, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so usually it's like, I don't know, there's a company called Solotech. They'll be approached for a large tour to supply the PA system and, the people to run it.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than the bands directly hiring people, it's a little more of a corporate kind of progression.
Right. Rather than the kind of DIY way you sort of ended up doing what you're doing, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my way probably takes a whole lot longer.
yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, because there's no formal process, right? You just kind of ended up there after years of various other roles, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I don't know. I was dumb enough to pursue this, I guess.
Well, it's working out for you, though, right? I mean, the fact that you can do it as a job is awesome, because I think a lot of people going for whatever music industry role they want, whether it's being a musician or doing what you do or being a publicist or all the various jobs there. I mean, it's hard to do that as a career. Most people I even have on this podcast who are like award-winning artists and stuff, they still have day jobs or part-time jobs or whatever to make ends meet, right? So the fact that you can do anything music related as a career is awesome. Like, I'm jealous. It's pretty cool that going back to 15 years ago or whatever it was that we first met each other, that whole group of people, I think you're probably the only one who's doing. Everyone's doing something music related, but you're the only one who's doing it as a career. So that's possibly with the exception of Greg, but it's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have told you. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that I'd be where I am today. So I'm still kind of taken aback by it. But I mean, you can definitely get by working in venues, but you can definitely make a better living on the road if you're able to do so.
Right on.
It is a very small community. It's a hard job to get into, but it's really fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess once you're there too, once you're established, you become one of those names that everyone knows or has heard of, right? And then you can get connections from there.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Then if you're a reliable name, then that goes pretty far.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's maybe a good place to wrap it up. So, if someone wants to check out like some of the bands you've worked with and stuff, what's the website? Like, do you want people to check out your website, or is it sort of just there for your own use as a resume? Like,
no, they can. I mean, the website's kind of silly.
Yeah.
I chose the absolute no flair, lowest possible form of a website.
Yeah, it's just text, right?
Oh yeah. It's just it's like looking at a text file.
Yeah.
Which I actually kind of like. I mean, I could go the route of you can't have like a half good website. I think you either have to hire somebody to make a really good one.
Yeah, or do what you did. Yeah.
Do what I did, and I don't really need a website. I just need my email address mostly. So
right.
But if people want to check it out, it's henrytours.ca.
Cool. And then I guess you will be in Winnipeg at some point with some band, but nothing on the immediate horizon, right?
Nothing on the immediate horizon, no. I think maybe this fall. I don't think it's been announced yet, so maybe I won't say anything.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, you're around. You come through. I definitely like hear I'll see a picture on Instagram or something, and it's like, oh, Henry was in Winnipeg, and then you're gone, right? You've already moved on to the next city or whatever too. So yeah, that's kind of
man.
Yeah.
There's no time to hang.
Yeah.
I get like an hour for lunch with my parents if I'm lucky.
Yeah, right. Well, it's better than nothing, right? Yeah. I mean, at least you get to come home and even if it's for an hour and kind of touch base a little bit before you're off to Regina or whatever, right? So.
Oh, totally. No, I'm pretty thankful. It's nice because it sucks being away from your family.
Yeah.
But the fact that I get to travel for work, it's just nice that I can pop in and see them,
Yeah,
4 or 5 times a year.
For sure.
Without taking a dedicated trip.
Yeah, because that messes up your whole routine, I guess, right? Like, as someone who's on and off the road all the time, I guess if you came here for a chunk of time, that's a chunk of time you can't be touring with someone.
That's true, but it is important to take time for yourself.
True. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so people should check out your website if they want to see what bands you've worked with, and there's a pretty good list. I mean, some of those are bold-faced names, Like, there's definitely artists that, whether you're a fan of them or not, people will recognize, and it's kind of cool to see that you went from basically your friends' bands to your friends being in these bands that are doing things, right? And yes, people should check that out if they want to. You can go to witchpolice.com to listen to it's almost 400 episodes now of Witch Police Radio. They're all there for free download and streaming. And you can also tune in on Sunday nights at midnight on 101.5 UMFM. And they sort of replay these episodes a few months after they've come out as a podcast. So, it's, July now. It might not air till the winter sometime. But it's kind of cool, if you're happen to be driving your car at midnight on a Sunday and listening to the radio, which is the ideal time to listen to the radio. People might hear this interview, and maybe you'll be coming through Winnipeg that week or something, right? So, yeah, it's kind of a cool added bonus.
Very possible.
Yeah. Right on. Well, yeah, thanks for talking to me. This is kind of a fun conversation, just because you are doing something that's different from what I usually deal with, but it's all connected. It's all related to music and musicians and touring and all that stuff. So yeah, thanks again.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
That was fun.